I have so many fond Richard Petty stories over the years. Anytime that you've seen him at the racetrack with a big group of people, you sort of step out there and watch him and say, man, I hope all the young drivers learn a lesson from what this guy created. But I remember one time back in the early part of the 80s when I just had a dream of being a TV guy. And basically I went to the store and bought a tripod and a little over-the-shoulder camera, and I decided I was going to do my own TV show. Well, I loaded up in Ohio in my van and I headed down to Daytona. And I was just standing outside the racetrack at Daytona doing some stand-ups and saying, man, I'm going to be a TV guy someday. And I'm not joking. Around the corner came Richard Petty, and he stopped and he said, hey boy, what are you doing there? And I said, well, I'm trying to be a TV guy and I'm looking for some interviews. And he says, well, wouldn't you like to interview the king? And I said, oh my gosh, you got to be kidding me. Yes, I'd love that. So Richard Petty stopped and talked to me. I asked him 6 or 7 questions, and I said, man, this is the greatest day of my life. And he said, well, how come you're standing outside the racetrack? I said, well, I don't have the proper credentials. He said, come with me. So he loaded me up in his car, and we drove into the infield in Daytona. He walked me into what was then the Winston Cup garage and grabbed probably 10 different drivers and brought them all over to me and said, this guy's got a lot of gumption, let's do some interviews with him. So for the next 2 hours I interviewed some of the greatest drivers in the history of the sport, all because the king cares so much about other people.